always joking, but well, actually, we are live, David. So, hello everybody for one very special moment, an historic moment, I would say, in our Decoding Rebels space. This is going to be the first one fully in English because our we are highly honored and thrilled about David Hoff accepting our invitation, our provocative invitation. So, first of all, thank you so much for being with us today, David. Thank you
My
so much.
pleasure. My pleasure.
My pleasure. So, as always, you could listen in the podcast in Apple and also in Android. I suppose going to be the postcard uploaded. Very soon when we finish the conversation. Also, you will have access to our YouTube channel that you can subscribe and you can see this talk. But now we are going to get started, David, with our conversation, and I want to introduce why I think that David Hoff is a talented rebel. And the first thing that I would say is coming to my mind is that in David I see myself in the future because David is an incredible guy that has done a million things. He could be retired, enjoying life with grandchildren and all this stuff. And he's, pushing me. I see myself, David, as a highly energetic person that, to be honest, I'm surpassed by you several times, by your energy. So I see myself, I want to be you in the future. He's the creator of one of the most important, what I say, future proof skills, or the skills that you need in the future, that is called learning agility. So I have here my two copies. I have always very here, and this is this guy, David Hoff, is here. This guy is David Hoff, so I'm amazed with that. He's a guy, the creator. He's a guy very proactive. He's highly flexible. This talk should be happening tomorrow, but due to my bad head, I didn't remember that I had something scheduled, and I asked, please, David, please, please. And one of the domains of learning agility, we will speak a little bit later, is flexibility. So David Hoff is walking the talk, making me the big favor of changing one day in advance. So thank you so much for that, David.
My pleasure.
So once that we are going to divide this conversation into two parts, two moments. The first one, we're going to talk with David the person. I want to know, well, my historic question, no, that is a traditional question, that is, a rebel talent is born or is made? That will be my first question for you. And then after that, this is going to last for 40 up to 55 minutes, 1 hour, no longer than that. The second part, I would like to deep dive in learning agility, David. See why do you write the second book? What is the purpose? What is the next moves? Why is this important? What is your vision? How is this developing in other areas, other countries? I know also that Carmen is the surname is Carmen
Escobar.
I want to Escobar. Carmen Escobar. Yeah, Carmen Escobar is a woman that has translated already
Yes.
the book into Spanish. So that's a great news for us. So it's going to be published soon, isn't it, David?
Within the next month. Yes.
Next book is going to be published and available for purchase,
Yes.
Amazon or whatever. That's great. So thank you, Carmen, for doing this huge contribution to the Spanish speaking population, or I don't know how to say it, but I hope that you understand. So, David, first of all, which is your opinion around a talent, a rebel talent? What is a rebel talent to me, David? For you to know, is someone that is curious, that make things happen, that never give up, is always looking for the next things. Is making the future a possibility. So this is what I call rebel talent. It's not something negative. It's, to me, it's always positive. So do you think that this kind of talent is born or is made? What is your opinion around
Yeah,
that?
that's a great question, Rafa. And so my answer, uh, I think it's got to be a combination of born and made. I think that the experiences that somebody has in their life it's either going to support trying different things, not being successful, but an environment that encourages somebody to keep doing that. So, but I think that you have to. The curiosity piece, I think, is really important. If you're not curious, you're not going to look around that corner or ask why this, or not be satisfied with what you see and wanting to know more. So,
David, how was David as a child?
yeah.
How was David as a child? You were perfectly fine, really polite, and stick to the rules, or not really? How was David as a child?
Yeah.
What do you want to share?
Yeah,
Well,
sure.
I want to say, I want to say that David Hoff is here without no script,
Yeah.
no preparation, fully open. So thank you so much for that, David.
Yeah.
How old was David Hoff as a child?
Yeah. So I'm the oldest. I have a younger sister and a younger brother. And some indication, normally in the United States, a child goes to kindergarten at 5 years old. And my birthday is January 1st. So I kind of was right on the cusp. And my parents could have kept me at home for another year. My mother said, I can't stand this kid. And so they sent me to school at 4.5, kindergarten. And if you look at all the pictures of me with my teachers in elementary school, I'm the person that's standing next to the teacher. So if you pay attention to that kind of thing, the reason that it's the kid that's most likely to misbehave or do something you're not supposed to do. So if you stand right next to the teacher, they can control you. I guess I would describe myself as spirited. If somebody was doing something that was different, maybe outside the rules, I was definitely I'll participate in that, and then suffer the consequences. I remember one day going back to school after lunch, and some kids standing by the door and yelling into the school. It's like, well, I'll try that.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Right, let's do it. So I yelled, and of course, who got caught and who got in trouble with it? It was me. So, and the other thing that was kind of interesting was that my father was a teacher, and he ended up then.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he became a principal and then a superintendent of schools, and he was the principal of my school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I know that a lot of kids will think that somebody who's the principal's son is a goody-goody and doesn't get into trouble, and so I made a point of proving that was not true. So I set a record of having the most detentions. If you did something wrong, you had to stay after in a special room, and that was detention. So I had the record for that. I actually got suspended from school for fighting when I was in 8th grade. So I guess I was pushing the boundaries all through elementary and high school.
Can you remember, David, if in that period, when you were young, you had any interest in certain topics from the very, very in your childhood or your, when you were young, or not really?
Yeah, well, I was interested in. You're going to get me to tell some stories here. There was, I don't, to this day, I don't know why, but there was an elementary school in the town that I lived in that had a firing range, a place where people could go and shoot guns. Crazy. And so I went there for something, and I found a live round of ammunition. And so I went home, and I decided that I was going to see if I could make this thing go off. So I had a big rock, and I kept dropping it onto this bullet, and eventually it went off. And,
you did it. You did it.
So, you know, I would explore. There were woods by the house and water, and if you know, I'd like to catch fish, and I would go off.
Where did you live, David? Where did you live?
Yeah, I lived outside of New York City, which everyone thinks is skyscrapers and everything else. But at the time I lived in, it was about 30 miles from Manhattan, and it was the suburbs, right? So the outskirts of Madrid or wherever, right? So, and you know, I was interested in a lot of different things. I played sports. I sang.
Which sport, David? Which sport?
I played.
Anyone in particular?
I played football and I ran track. And then I sang in the choir at school, and I actually had to. You could sing a solo and have that rated, you know, big competition, and I did that. I had the lead in the school play for 2 years. I was the class president for 2 of the 3 years. I didn't get elected my senior
David,
year.
sorry if I interrupt you, but I'm going to be, you know,
Yeah.
because it makes me curious some things, no?
Yeah.
Is that something you were the president of the class for 2 years or 3 years or whatever? This is something that you looked for, or something that it suddenly happened to you, you know, by I don't know, by chance, by your leadership, you know, natural leadership. This is something you were searching for or not? How it was?
You know, I think it's where there were. I mean, I guess at some level, I saw myself as a leader, and leaders look for opportunities to lead. And yeah, and other people said, "Hey, you ought to do this, or you ought to do that," and so I did. You know.
Yeah. How was your path for choosing the career that you wanted to study?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How was your reasoning?
Oh, this is a good story. So when I was in 8th grade, back in the time when I was getting into trouble, getting suspended, so they had a guidance counselor. I don't know if you have that in Spain.
I don't know.
Counselor. So
I don't think so. I don't think so.
If somebody has a problem, there's somebody that they can go and talk to. And so
No,
the person
definitely not.
me to talk to this guy, and I felt like he asked stupid questions. He didn't know, you know, he wasn't helping me at all. And I said to myself, you know what? I could do this better than this guy. And so I'm 13 years old. Okay. So it was really at that point that I decided that I wanted to go into education and be a counselor. So then I went to school. I went to college, and I got certified to be able to teach. Along the way, I had an opportunity to do some substitute teaching, and there were young kids that were 15, 16 years old, and quite frankly, they were a pain in the ass. They didn't really want to learn anything, and I was going to be a disciplinarian. I said, I don't want to do that. So I said, you know what? I wonder if I could do this with adults. So I ended up going to graduate school to Columbia, and I was supposed to get a degree in guidance and counseling, which would have allowed me to be a counselor in a school. But my second year at Columbia, I don't know if you know the name Noel Tichy, Tichy. He's been on the faculty at the University of Michigan. He's a big deal in the field of organization development. So he said to me, there's a guy coming down from MIT this next semester, and you've got to take his course. So I said, okay. So the course had a big, long name. And what I found out was the subject that he was teaching was organization development. And the guy's name was Richard Beckhart. And if you know of
I know that guy. Yeah,
okay, which so it
I
was
know that guy.
yeah, and it was during that class that I said, this is what I want to do, because he was working with organizations. So now it's like, okay, that's what I want to do. This is what I've been trained to do. How do I go from one to the other?
From
And
here to there. Yeah.
yeah, so it took a while. I worked at a university for a few years. Then I worked for a consulting firm up in Boston. And it was at that consulting firm where I was doing work in both the public sector and the private sector that I began to gain some private sector experience. And that one of the companies that I worked with was Anheuser-Busch, Budweiser Beer, and they came and recruited me. And then I went to work for them. So
Okay. Okay. When well, I have a question for you before moving to the learning agility, because I want to start. But actually, I'm going to start talking a little bit about that, because don't you think that the best learners are childs?
oh, absolutely, yeah.
And somehow, which is your opinion? Why we lose that? No, we are growing and getting older, year after year, and we are losing that. And when we are adults, suddenly we need to retrain that skill. No? What do you think? What do you think? Which is your opinion around that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yesterday or Sunday, I was with my three grandchildren, and I just watched them, and I watched them do what they do, and if they weren't able to do it, they would try it again and try it
Figure
again.
out.
Yeah,
Figure
and
out.
they would just keep doing it. So I think over time, what happens to us, me as being having to stand next to the teacher, it's because I was curious. I was difficult to handle, and over time, organizations, whether that's school systems or businesses, uh, keep emphasizing these are the rules. You need to color between the lines. If you go outside the lines, there will be consequences. So you
You're
can
right.
keep doing that, and you may get fired, or you can stop doing that and stop being curious, or find another place for your curiosity in your life.
This is something that I have in my mind, because I would love, last like a couple of months ago, I'm absolutely, you know me a little bit, but I'm absolutely crazy about learning, crazy to other level. I'm so crazy that like 3 or 4 months ago, uh, the sister, well, one of my cousins, a small one, like 16 years old, she came to me and asked me, I don't know, I want your advice what to study in the faculty. And I told her, you should you should study how you should learn how to learn.
Yeah,
And she was saying, no, I'm serious. And I said, no, I'm serious too.
yeah,
I'm serious too. So
yeah,
how something that is in my mind, that I have five kids,
yeah,
triplets and twins. Do you remember that
yeah.
story? Very nice story. 3 years old and 6 years old, almost, the five of them. And something that I have in my mind: how do you educate them? For being respectful, and because your limits are where the limits of others are, in my opinion. So your limit ends when start the limit of others. You need to respect, but also somehow I would say, how would I teach my kids to know when to break those boundaries or those rules? How give me an advice, David. Not as the creator of learning agility,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
you do it too, but like your
for sure.
personal experience, around that.
Yeah,
What do
yeah.
you think?
Well, I mean, I think in your role as a parent, that you need to be positive, encouraging, supporting, paying attention to what kinds of things interest your kids, and encourage them to pursue that. Whether that be sports or artistic things, or whatever it is. and tell them you can be whatever you want to be, and mean that. And will there
Be true on that. Be true on that.
will there be obstacles? Absolutely, but that's the obstacles make it even more rewarding when you overcome them, right?
Overcome them.
Yeah, yeah. So I tried to, as a parent, it's hard to not give advice sometimes, and you see what your kids are good at. So the advice that I gave to my sons was that, number one, they are white males. And I said to them, you are an endangered species. The world of the 2020s, 30s is not the year of the white male. Okay, at least in the United States, it's women, it's people of color, and if you want to compete in that environment, you've got to have some things that are unique about you that will allow you to compete with those other people.
When you need compete, you need compete in a work environment.
In a work environment. In a work environment. Yeah. And it's funny. My youngest son works in finance, and the other thing I said is, don't work in human resources.
Thank you.
Because
thank you. Also do I. So do I. So yeah.
Right.
Thank
well,
you.
So,
thank you
so
for that.
here's how this plays out. Right. My youngest, I said, what you need to do is study finance, because if you know the numbers, then you can play with whoever.
Manage.
It's all based on the numbers, right? And so my youngest got a degree in finance. My oldest is in human resources, and my middle son is in sales. So anyway,
good mix. They could be a company, a corporate, a corporate family somehow. Yeah, you have
learning agility, right?
Yeah. I want to jump in the story behind when and how did you came out with learning agility concept. So were you aware about how impactful and strong this concept would be, or not really?
Yeah, well, so you stopped me when I started talking about the Anheuser-Busch.
Sorry
okay.
for that.
It's okay. Just this last time. No, I'm kidding.
I can promise that I will do my best.
Yeah. So when I was there, I had 4 jobs when I was there. The third job was Director of Human Resource Development and Selection. So I was supposed to help accelerate the development of leaders in the organization. And so I had a background in competencies, and that goes way back in my career when I was working for this consulting firm. And so there was some work being done at the place called the Center for Creative Leadership in Greensboro, North Carolina. And there were 2 guys, Mike Lombardo and Bob Eichinger, that were involved with accelerating development. So if it takes 20 years to develop a general manager, how do you do it in 10 or 8? And they said, well, you need to assess the person and know what capabilities they have. You need to look at the job that you want to put them in and say, what are the competencies? Then you put them together, and the stuff that they don't have, that's the stuff that you put into a development plan. And then they were talking about something called learning agility. So I had that other stuff figured out, okay? But I was really interested in this thing that they were talking about that they were calling learning agility, but I could never get them, I couldn't pin them down to, what does it look like? How do you measure it? And if you can't measure it, who cares, right? I mean, it's just this interesting thing that we talk about. Then the other thing, my last job at Anheuser-Busch was starting their international human resource function. And I was moving families from St. Louis, US, to Japan and China and Mexico and all these different places. And I saw some of the people struggle. And it was the person, the employee, but it was also the spouse and the kids, and so it's all kind of coming together around learning agility. And so a measure of learning agility came out, and I've had an ongoing relationship with Warner Burke, who's been at Columbia forever. And so he and I met at this conference, and we saw this other measure. People weren't particularly impressed with it, and he said, "I think I can measure this thing." And I said, "Great." I said, "If you do, I would love to represent it." So he went off with his doctoral students and started working on. I mean, it's what
psychometrics and all this stuff.
well, the first thing it was go to the literature. What's been done before? And so they studied it, and they came up with this guy Daru, who said it's learning agility is about speed and about flexibility. Period. And they went in as they studied it. They said, yeah, that's important, but there are these other things. But right, 7 more things. And so he eventually, and it took him, and some people don't appreciate that it took him 5 years of research to come up with 38 items. But that's the beauty of what he did. The other measure that I referenced had over 100 items. So, and this is some of the struggle that I sometimes have when I'm talking to companies about learning agility. To them, more equals better. So if I have 100 questions, that's better than 38. No, not necessarily. I mean, it depends on, have they been validated and so on and so on. So your question to me was, how did I get involved in learning agility? And that was how I got involved with Warner. And then once he had the items, we Easy Consult had a platform, and yeah.
David, did you have any? I suppose so, but just to share, no? Did you have any setbacks, during this path? When you came out with the idea, I think that Warner Brook told you, I think that I could measure that. Okay, let's do it. If you do it, I will represent it. Okay, when that process began,
yeah,
did you have any setbacks during the process? I suppose so. What would anyone that you could share? Because something that I love to do, David, is when I see a successful person, like I consider you a successful person. There are a lot of setbacks. It's not a rose pace. For I don't know. It's a correct word in English, but here in Spanish, it's camino de rosas. It's like it's not something easy. It's a lot of struggling. It's a lot of struggling. So something that you remember. Any moment that you said, let's, I'm done with that. I don't want to continue with this anymore.
Well,
from your side or for the other side, or not really?
Yeah, no. So we decided. So we had a platform that we were going to put these items on and produce a report. And the first version of that, the report was at the dimension level only. So it only talked about the 9 dimensions, not what was underneath that. And the feedback that we got from it was actually Alan Church, who was head of assessment at Pepsi. He said, I love your assessment. I love the dimensions, but your report's a little thin. That was his way of saying, where's the beef, right? So would you consider that a setback? Well, kind of, sort of, because it sent us back to work on it. And so that's when we came out with the expanded version, which you're familiar with. And so the report is at the dimension and item level. Another thing was, being this old guy, I said, I ran certification sessions for people for years when I was at this consulting firm and when I was at Anheuser-Busch, and that's old school, so I want to be new school. So I tried to do something online for people, and I was finding after they were certified that they weren't buying the assessment. What's wrong, So yeah, to me, that's a setback, because the reason I got involved with this is to sell assessments. So I was in Australia, and I was doing kind of a selling session, a briefing on what learning agility is. And the people said, so what's the process for being able to use this, and so on and so forth. And I told them, and they said, well, in Australia, a proper certification is you do this training program for a couple days. I said, well, hell, I can do that. I've done that for years, right? So it caused me to go back and start from scratch and rework that whole process. Then, I don't know if this is a setback, but it was clear to me when we first came out with the first version of the assessment that human resource people aren't going to understand what to do with this. I said, Warner, we got to write a book. And I'd never written a book before. Okay. And I said, we need to be able to tell people what they can do with this, that you can use it for selection, you can use it for performance management, you can use it for succession planning, and kind of, show them the way to do that. That's why we wrote the first book.
Because David, in your words,
Yeah.
What is learning agility?
You find yourself in a situation where you've never been before, you don't know what to do, and you figure it out. Period.
Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah.
Nothing more, nothing less. And also, which are the other dimensions? I have here in front of me the other dimensions, because I found, I'm finding them very interesting to work with group of people, with teams.
Yeah.
Because also this assessment has the possibility to make a 180 degrees and 360 degrees. So it's to me, it's really insightful when you work with teams, because it's really strong to see. Also, you can see the culture of a team inside it.
Yeah.
How do you seek for feedback? And it's very curious to see. I want to share this with you. I know that I'm not going to discover you nothing, but how big is the impact of the leader in the other people of the team? You see the profile of the managing director has an ascendance in the people of their team. It's very curious to see. I love that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you and I have talked before about context matters. So I think that the leader sets the context for the team, right? And that leader is either going to encourage innovation, creativity, curiosity, or not, or other.
And David, they set a context explicit in an explicit or an implicit way. You know what I mean?
Either way.
You could be explicit with, this is the content, the rules, norms, or whatever. But also what you do, how you behave as a leader, you set a context, even you don't want to.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
Absolutely. Oh, no question. So it's kind of like you're in this room with these walls, and somebody can either say the wall is 2 feet over here, or you can try to go 3 feet and bump into it, right? Ultimately, whether they're described to you or they are de facto in place, it's just nobody tells you. You've got to figure it out. You've got to find out, right?
The other dimensions, David, we have experimenting, performance risk-taking, interpersonal risk-taking. I love that one. I
do too.
Collaborating, information gathering, feedback seeking. I love that one too. I have my preferences. I'm that kind of guy. So I get in love with certain things, and also the last one is reflecting.
Yeah.
So here you can see a lot of what are the values around the agile mindset, all this new stuff, new ways of working. They're speaking a lot of these things, and you created that. When was the learning agility concept and the assessment was created? When it was created? 20 years ago, more or less.
Maybe 6 years ago. No, 5-6 years ago.
6 years ago. I thought there was more.
Well, I mean,
okay, because I was thinking about
on the research.
Sorry, please.
Yeah, so when Warner started working on developing the items was 10 years ago, right?
But 10 years ago, you were developing items that are, hyper trendy nowadays. Hyper trendy, reflecting, experimenting, interpersonal risk-taking. It has to do, in my opinion, my humble opinion, it has to do with psychological safety. How do you spread yourself? How do you say the right things in the right moment to the right person? So to me, it's amazing how, when you think that you are in something brand new, there are people that have been studying this for 10 years. So that I love that kind of things.
before we go in a different direction, I want to come back and add a little bit to what you said about doing this using learning agility with teams. Okay, so
Please.
we have had a number of requests to do that, to use the Burke with teams. Now, Warner's the researcher, I'm the practitioner, and so when I commit a faux pas from a research perspective, he kindly slaps my hand and says that's incorrect. Okay, so using the Burke that we have right now with a team and assuming that the profile that you would come up with, which would be the average of the individuals, is not accurate. The way that you would do that is you need a different assessment that's a combination of the learning agility elements, but also that looks at the organization development side of things. How do they work together as a team? Because when they're filling out the Burke on themselves, they're just talking about themselves. They're not talking about themselves as a member of this team and how they work together.
I do use this for that, and I do it in my way.
Yeah.
And if you launch someday the team assessment, I will buy 1,000,000%. But also, I always use, that I always use at least 180.
Yeah.
I want to have the opinion, the vision of others. So in order to have a more amplified, vision or image around a person and also a team, But yeah, I know what you mean, and I also truly believe that maybe you're not going to like this, but I'm going to say it anyway, with all my respect, that I don't think that any assessment, I know a lot of them, I'm certified on a lot of different assessment, different capability, different skills, and so on. I don't think that any assessment is Bible. It's like, this is a DNA assessment. This is how you are. Precise. No, this is, to me, is giving you a big picture of who you are.
Yeah.
This could be more accurate depending on the reliability of the assessment or whatever. But it to me is a conversation trigger somehow. It's like, okay, let's just talk about yourself. Let's talk about reflect on yourself and get exposed to the opinion of others. So that is something that I want to share with you, because of course I never said you are in this way, because this is not correct, this is not precise. So okay, we have this kind of results. Let's discuss. Well, you told me that to use these because also David has a certification program for this.
Yes.
You take it, and he will explain to you how to explain properly learning agility, understand the different dimension, and also how to debrief. So, and something that you told me, Dave, but also I do know from other experiences, but you told me that is like, okay, this is an open discussion that you need to take with the person that has taken the assessment. So this is not Bible. This is not something that you are in this way. No judgment. Okay, you're scoring that way. How do you feel? Give me some example. Can you see yourself in certain moment that you see this, put it in practice? I love the blind spots. I also love, you have the blind spots, but you also have the how do you say it in English? Because the strong, the strength. So you there's something that you think that you are better. There are moments that there are scores that you think that you are better than the other scores you, and
Right.
there are other scoring that you think that you are that you score lower than the other perceives you. How do you say that in English? That difference. Uncovered strength. Uncovered strength could be uncovered strength.
Yep. Or, well, we have it on the 360. We talk about unrecognized strengths.
That's it. That was the word.
And then the converse of that, which is blind spots, right? Things
that's what I meant.
Things that I think I do, and I don't know that that's not how other people experience me, right? The other thing that you mentioned a minute ago about the Burke, I think does a really good job of measuring learning agility, and learning agility isn't the universe of anything. When we use the Burke in some situations, we also use the Hogan, which I think is a good measure of personality. So if you think about personality as something, characteristics of a person that are pretty set by the time they're age 20, the beauty of learning agility, because these are behavioral things, these are things that are changeable, developable, right? But they work together. So knowing what somebody's personality is like will tell you aspects of what you're going to confirm in the Burke. So
And also how to proceed in their development also.
absolutely, yeah.
Well, why do you decided, or when, and what? I know that the answer, okay, but I wanted other people to know the answer too. Why you decided to go for the second one?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Developing, here's the clue, but please, sir.
Yeah, I mean, as I was working with people literally around the world, I was finding more people than I had hoped I would find that were kind of stuck. So they get an assessment of a person. They work through with the person so that they confirm, yes, this is me. These are the things that I do well. These are the things that I don't do well. Then what? So,
Now
so
what? Yeah.
yeah. So, how do you help somebody work on flexibility? How do you help somebody work on interpersonal risk taking? And I just felt like there wasn't enough. I mean, you could go and look at 38 different resources to look at all the four aspects of feedback seeking, all the four aspects of information gathering, but can't we make that easier? Can't we put it all together in one place? And in my opinion, that's what I tried to do with the second book.
That's it. A practice, something that I practice to work on flexibility.
Yep.
I want to share that because it has came to my mind. Something very, very powerful to work on your flexibility is when you are, managing teams or not, but what you're with a team and someone comes to you and tell, I have this idea, I want to do this. I love to say, I don't agree with this idea. I will not do it, but let's do it. And let's see. Of course, you need to be aware of the risk and so on. You can put in, no, you can risk your whole company and to make a bankruptcy or whatever. But I don't agree. Do you get my point? Do you get my point? It's like, I don't agree.
Yeah.
I won't do that. Let's do it. And sometimes I was right, and sometimes not.
Sure.
So it's very powerful to see. It's not my only point of view. What matters, what counts. It's like, okay, I'm open to others, and it's a huge effort when you start doing this. Like, I don't agree with that. Let's do it. Let's do it, and let's see. Let's give it a try.
I mean, for me, the essence of flexibility is being able to shift paradigms. So when I look at a situation, I have this way of explaining it. So in your example, you have somebody that comes in that has a different paradigm or different way of looking at a situation, and can you be open to maybe you can come up with a joint paradigm that captures both of your perspectives. But I think it's your prerogative as a manager to say, you could say no, or you could say, here's what my concerns are. And so what I need you to do is help me feel comfortable that what you're going to do is going to answer my concerns or not go too far out in a particular direction. So, I think it's a negotiation, but it begins with a willingness to look at, are you open to different possibilities?
you should be open that you could be wrong.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And it's not easy, that,
Yep.
you know, it's like, okay, I could be wrong. I also, something that I practice a lot myself, by myself, is like, is when I face a situation like that, is like a problem, or, you know, a conflict or whatever, is like, okay, which part of the problem could be me?
Hmm.
Could I be a part of the problem? And this completely, you know, reframe somehow the paradigm, as you say, you know, reframe my, this is like a reappraisal. You think, okay, I'm going to approach that problem from another point of view, and it helps me a lot, because a lot of times, for not saying always, I find myself, you know, being part of the problem somehow.
You know,
So yeah.
you're reminding me of an example when I was at Anheuser-Busch, and it was the first job that I had. Now, the person that recruited me is a guy that I had worked with at this consulting firm in Boston. So we had a history. And this guy's name is Pete. And so our work was organization development. So we would be deployed in different parts of the organization for a startup of a brewery, or something like that, or an expansion, or to work with the sales force, or all kinds of different places. Well, Pete, you know, was kind of an intense guy, and you know, he sometimes I don't know. He would we would get into a meeting with a customer, and the customer would have a point of view, and it didn't agree with Pete's point of view, and so Pete would um, tell them they were wrong, and it was like, you know, I'm saying to myself, we're trying to do this business with them. I mean, yeah, I didn't totally agree, but there's a way to say it. So, you know, I struggled for a while, and I eventually decided I've got to give him some feedback. So, you know, it's feedback. That's not feedback seeking. That's feedback
No.
giving. Okay.
Yeah,
But it was also interpersonal risk taking, right?
that's it. I was thinking that.
Because I, his behavior was having a negative impact on the work that our group was doing. And I told him, and he did not take it well. He got pissed off. But you know, I tried to say it and be kind and sensitive, etc. But it is what it is.
Supportive.
Yeah, and I think it sunk in, but it took a while. And for me, I said it and it was over, and I didn't feel like, you know, it showed up in my performance review, or my salary increase, or anything else. So
David, because we are like almost 50 minutes together. I love that. I would stay with you for 2 hours, you know that. But you know, just narrowing down the conversation, just to finish. I want to ask you, which are the next step, which is the future for learning agility. The next step, of course, the next month, hopefully we will have the Spanish version of the book. Carmen is going to give all of us this present. But which is the future? What's the next step? That we got to expect something new or not? And where do you see the future of learning agility as a skill? Yeah. What are your opinion around that?
it's a great question. Um, I, I told you that Warner had came up with a draft of a team version of that measures learning agility, and I'm going to see him Thursday night. I'm going up to New York to. He's actually retiring from Columbia, which doesn't mean anything
He
other than
will not. He
no.
will not.
No, I mean, the thing that he really loves to do is to teach this group of executive master's students, and he'll continue to do that. So anyway, I'm going to see him, and it's time to revisit that conversation, and hopefully get him re-engaged in doing a second and a third draft of that, because I think that's going to be important. The thing that I have been thinking about lately is I am finding more interest in learning agility outside the United States than inside the United
Oh,
States.
really?
Yeah. So my question or concern is, what does that say about the United States?
Good
I
question.
don't.
I suppose that you know what I'm going to share, but the World Economic Forum is
Yeah.
always publishing, and it's a lot of essays and studies and surveys and whatever, but uh, papers. But they used to publish which is the skills of the future.
Yeah.
2020 skills, 2018 skills, 2024 skills. And I have all the rankings, and I always say, well, where the hell is learning? Where? But what I want to share with you is that nowadays, fortunately, they include learning,
Yeah.
and it jumps directly to the second position.
Yeah. Yeah.
The most important skill is
So
learning.
that my opinion about that, along with my concern about learning agility. Learning agility, and you know this, is hard work. I mean, if you want to develop these 38 things, it's not something that you're going to just do tomorrow, okay? And it's something that you have to commit to, and you have to work on, and get feedback. Yeah, you did this better. You didn't do this. You need to do this.
And also, you need to do it step by step. Sorry for interrupting you, but
Well,
it's not. I'm going to work on the 38. No, step by
yeah,
step. Let's prioritize, and then let's move forward. No, that's it.
absolutely. So that commitment is a concern that I have. Is are there going to be certain organizations, and I'm hoping for us to get connected with a few big organizations that make a commitment, not the flavor of the month. I'm not interested. I'm too old for that. Okay, I'd rather go fishing, right? So make a commitment that they want to work on this. And I'm not saying it has to be the whole organization. That's probably death. So let's start with a small group, a team, a pilot, a division, and let's make it work. And then let's talk about how we might expand that. And so, short of that, I talk about organizations looking for the next shiny object, and whether that's blockchain or, I don't know what.
Metaverse. Don't forget metaverse.
I mean, there's always these things that people chase, and they hope that it's this panacea, and if we take this pill, I'll be able to do it tomorrow. It doesn't work that way.
No, it's
hard
not. Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So
it's true. That's true. It's true. David, so I would like to finish with, who could you suggest us? I would love to know which kind of person or books or whatever inspires you, and you would recommend to us, outside or apart from learning agility. So which kind of things are you interested in? Which kind of person do you follow? Do you listen to his or her podcast, or any book that you could recommend? That says, if I would love to, I would recommend, highly recommend, strongly recommend to read this book or this one or whatever, something that you could share with our audience, to say somehow.
Yeah, I'm looking for them on my bookshelf over here. Some of them, Rafi, are ones that I reference in the bibliography of the Developing Learning Agility.
Well, actually, it's nothing coming to your mind, David. A person that you tell us a person that you admire, that everybody could find. Because when I used to speak to make this question to people, they used to tell me, the baker from my town, or the person that is brushing the streets or whatever. Okay, this is really inspiring, but nobody could find that guy. if they don't go to where you live. So someone that you say, this is quite an inspiring person, and everybody could find.
Yeah.
Which one would you say?
I found a couple. So one is Kahneman, Kahneman.
Okay.
Right.
Daniel Kahneman.
Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow.
Yeah,
And then his new book is called Choices, Values, and Frames. So I use that a lot to understand speed and to be able to write that chapter.
Around flexibility. I'm now with this one. It's from Adam Grant that is called Think Again.
Yes, and that was another one. Yep, that's a good one.
For flexibility, is a must read. As I say, here's a press for Daniel Kahneman Daniel Kahneman, Bill and Melinda Gates. It's quite an interesting book. Think Again.
Yep.
The power of knowing what you don't know.
Yep.
Like, what a strong statement.
Yep. So the other thing that I would say is that I look for books, as I'm traveling, I look for books that are going to take me in a different direction. I joined, in fact, I started a few years ago a men's historical fiction group. And one of the things that I've gotten from that is that it exposes me to things that I would not have read before, right? So I can get interested in a particular channel, and it's narrow, and it's good, but I want to go broad. So when I went to Egypt in January, and our tour guide said, if you want to understand what's the background here in Egypt and in the Middle East, read this book and this book. And I bought both of them and I read them. So, when I started going to China, I went into the bookstore in Hong Kong and found a book called Life and Death in Shanghai, and it helped me understand the Cultural Revolution. And that's really critical to being able to understand China at a point in time.
Different cultures, different moments.
Yeah.
David, my last question for you, and we are going to get finished, is for how long are we going to have David Hoff in the game? For how long?
Yeah. So when my wife and I get into a disagreement and I'm complaining about how hard I'm working, she said, well, that's your choice. If that's how you want to spend your retirement, that's up to you. So then I just say, you know what, you're right. So I will continue to do this as long as it's fun, as long as I can do the other things that I want to do, which is continue to travel the world, continue to have time for family, continue to be able to pursue hobbies like the book club, like fishing, like Bible study, golf.
Sounds great. I would love to to have you close to me, David. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing with us your story with this openness as usual, for your kindness, for being the man that you are. That you're so inspiring to me, David. I never lie. I would love to lie sometimes, but I never lie. So I get in trouble sometimes, But truly and honestly, I want to say with you, thank you. Thank you so much for what you do, for your contribution to the world, and also for your small contribution to this Decoding Rebel stuff and movement that we have just started. And hope to see you soon, David. I owe you one.
Yeah,
well, actually, I owe you two.
Oh.
You come here and also change in the day, so I owe you two.
Okay. Well, I'll only charge you one, and that's to do a reciprocal session with you and I and Carmen.
please, I would love to. You can count on me. I owe you one, and I would love to meet Carmen closer too and do things together.
Yeah, because I think that's an opportunity to collaborate across continents.
I love to meet people with same interests.
Yeah.
And I know that Carmen has a huge interest. She's a really values person, because you told me that. So let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay.
So let's do it. So thank you so much, my friend.
Had a lot of fun. Thanks.
Goodbye.
Take care.
Rebecca.